Right. We're back. We're back. Welcome to an early show with your host, Young Brando, live from Los Angeles. Decided to shave my beard, go back for the younger look. So now I look like I'm 60 instead of 80. Welcome back to the new age. We're going to talk about watches. We're going to take a look at the art, art of Breguet auction perhaps that's going on at in Eichen, Zurich. As you know, they're a very disruptive auction house, even though they're also one of the first to focus on wristwatches in the first place. But they have these timed auctions and themed auctions that run without a premium. So they offer something very attractive, something a little different from whatever else is out there. We also have, of course, a few different releases, and I think the professor might jump on. So if he does, all bets are off, as you know. We'll go with whatever it is that he wants to talk about. But let's take a look at um, some of the new releases. There is apparently something going on in Geneva in a few days. Hi JJ, how are you doing? Um, and apparently Patek wanted to piggyback on this nice little show called Watches and Wonders in Geneva. So they will have a rare handcrafts exhibition that starts on April 1st. And I think it will somehow continue onto the first 2 weeks of April, open to public, 67 timepieces, 22 dome clocks, dozen pocket watches, and many other pieces, wristwatches that have these cloisonné enamel dials. They're apparently releasing a special edition of the 5189G, their new age contemporary Calatrava with the Claude Paris bezel, with the hobnail bezel in white gold, with a cloisonné enamel dial that depicts a scene from the 1948 Geneva Grand Prix, which is very cool. And as you see, they have not only gone with a nice rally style strap that has contrast stitching, but also these hands that have the similar perforated look that both picks up that detail from the strap, but also gives a slight bit of a dashboard feel to what is otherwise perfectly executed, miniaturized métier d'art style cloisonné enamel dial. This is apparently the Leopard, reference 995/137J, a piece that is going to be similarly exhibited. I love the fact that they spared no detail in also decorating the feuille hands too, with the spots of a leopard, and you see on the back this beautiful painting as well. The case itself, of course. Apparently, that's going to be in the Patek Philippe Salon in Rue du Rhône. Open from April 1st to the 15th, except on Sundays. So I hope some of our community members who are going to be in Geneva perhaps can catch up with the beginnings of this exhibition, which starts basically right around the time when the show, the Watches and Wonders show, ends. Speaking of métier d'art, speaking of these sorts of handcrafts pieces, you might know the emergent brand Louis Erard, which basically specializes on these sorts of pieces at a relatively accessible price point. They have a lot of interesting mechanical watches with hand guilloche dials, and they have just released this particular piece with a marqueterie dial, so kind of a miniature wood carving style decoration with a beautiful multifaceted design on the dial that is executed by the independent artisan Bastien Chevalier. And these are, very rarely found on very, limited edition pieces by usually some of the prestige brands. So the kind of pieces that Patek Philippe will exhibit in April in Geneva run, hundreds of thousands of Swiss francs. This is a piece that is at a much accessible price point. Of course, there are some corners cut, not only in the name of the brand. It's a piece that runs on a pretty generic movement. We can look at the process of the marqueterie in a second, but let's focus on the watch a little bit. They have this Sellita movement, as far as I know. I just want to specify SW261-1 automatic with a 38-hour power reserve with their own customized rotor, and you have a case back. I think that looks like a blue tinted glass to me to match the shades of the dial as well as the strap. So it's a very nice and elegant piece. It's a unique piece, but certainly it's a watch for those of us who prioritize aesthetics over technique in a way, form over techniques, form over content, perhaps, but it is a very elegant piece indeed. And, one can only be grateful, I think, to have another brand that offers these sorts of pieces at a different price point. Oh, there we go. Professor, how are you doing?
Hello. Hey. Hello, sir.
I'm glad we're both wearing caps. I'm glad you got the memo. Yeah.
I did. I run and got my cap here,
Yeah,
so
I
we
need a
can
Tudor
match.
cap. I need a Tudor cap. I don't. This is Breguet in kind of a monotone,
Oh, Breguet. Wow.
execution. But
You
Tudor is
have
nice.
Breguet.
I like Tudor. Hey, whole milk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty interesting because, again, you don't really get this kind of execution, this kind of marqueterie dial at the price point, of course. So let me see. I will just open it on YouTube because we can't see anything. This level of detail. I mean, of course, it runs on a generic Sellita movement, so that leaves something to be desired. But then again, you don't really get this sort of work on a watch that's under 4,000 Swiss francs, right? Do you like this kind of stuff, Professor? Are you interested in marqueterie or enamel dials, or is that just too much of a contraption for you?
No, it's nice. It says something about the industry. There is innovation. It's nice. I like it. But at the same time, somebody can ask, "Hey, young Brando or YB or Lord, I don't know." Someone might ask and say, "Okay, what if I buy this? Is it a solid buy? Is it I buy and I keep? Where does it stack in my repertoire of collection of watches? How exclusive is it? Oh, somebody might say, "Oh, Selita. Okay, fair Selita movement. Yeah, I get it." But then there is more to it, of course. But so how would you comment on this?
I think there are different categories of watches for humble collectors like us.
Hmm.
We usually have a category for beaters, so to speak, right? I have
Yeah.
a number of Seiko watches, especially that are not only under 1 grand, but even under $500 that I wear on a daily basis, to the gym, to the grocery store, just to knock around. And, it fits my lifestyle so far. And as I age, though, I like to kind of, I think, graduate into stuff that's a little finer, a little
Hmm.
nicer, a little dressier, perhaps, than so sporty. As much as I like the SKX, uh, it's a little too sporty for me to wear just about anywhere when I don't want to wear a very expensive watch.
Yeah.
And a lot of the emergent micro brands, you can count Furlan Marie, you can count Merci, you can count Baltic, you can count even Louis Erard among these brands, Dan Henry. They have started going into this area, going into this niche where they pick up after um, dress watch designs from a bygone era and reiterate that with a modern aesthetic. Like I was just discussing the new time only Polan Mare piece, for example, um, this three-hander that they are soon offering in 3 different iterations like this. Um, to me, this is the sweet spot. They have Mecha Quartz chronographs for around 600 Swiss francs. They have time only pieces with a self-winding movement manufactured by La Joux-Perret. So pretty decent Swiss made, the automatic caliber. Um, I think that's a very good price point for those people who perhaps are not satisfied with Seiko, either in terms of styling or perhaps it simply doesn't inspire them in the same way. I'm a huge fan of the Prospex line, but again, that's the sporty dive watch aesthetics. I'm not
Hmm.
really satisfied with Presage, which is the more dressier, formal, classic line. For me, I go to pieces like this as I age, not so gracefully. Um, when it comes to 4,000 rather than 1250 like this, um, I think one should do that with a certain uh, nonchalance, so to speak, right? That you should know that you're getting a special piece for sure, aesthetically speaking, not necessarily horologically speaking, when it comes to especially the Louis Erard piece. Um, but you're essentially blowing your money, right? It's something that you can wear, and you can wear with pride as well. I think on the face of it, it has more art, it has more work than many more watches, watches that cost 4 or 5 times more, right? Because we have heritage brands like Audemars Piguet these days that offer at the 25,000 level stamped dials rather than hand guilloché or even CNC guided guilloché at this point. I mean, they're absolutely shameless. So if you're asking me, would you pay for a code 1159 $25,000 for a stamped dial that looks cool and is fumé or whatever else, or pay 4,000 for this? I would say absolutely go for 4,000 for this, but with the knowledge, again, that's a watch that you can wear around anywhere. It will be recognized as an artistic piece. It might be recognized by those in the know as a small independent brand, someone who perhaps is not only a collector of watches, but perhaps independent artists as well. But it's not an investment piece, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, if you're a collector like me who is not really after the biggest and the baddest and the most expensive new independents, I think this genre for me is more around $1,000 or 1,000 francs rather than 4,000. But then again, there are collectors who spend in their usual pieces 6 figures easily, $250,000 and up. For someone like that who perhaps is interested in this sort of métier d'art genre with Clausenet enamel dials, wooden marquetry dials, then this fits right in for a more daily casual aesthetic. Yeah, certainly. I mean, you are bringing up a good point. I know you are being kind to me in general. Essentially, you are saying this is, to use the professor's signature phrase, this is garbage. You don't want to spend 4,000 on this watch. I understand that, but like the whole milk is saying in the chat, it's you have to be invested in the design aspect of watches. Maybe you are the artsy type. Maybe you aspire to one day own these sorts of pieces by one of the heritage makers, whether we're talking about Patek Philippe, who is apparently organizing an exhibition for rare handcrafts, on the back of Watches and Wonders in Geneva. It can be an aspirational piece for someone like that, or for a collector who already focuses on those kinds of pieces, it can be something fun and more modernist to wear on a daily basis.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see it. It's nice.
And it kind of has oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's back to what you said, Lord. It depends on also your age, and where you are in your collecting journey. 4,000, I think we were talking about it in an earlier stream many days ago. I think the whole industry has changed so much. It's people are talking about big amounts of money in my days, in the 2000s, early 2000s, when I entered this business, this world, people were talking about, a watch. Let's take Rolex, which is an easy case. We can all go back and reference the price point, $4,000 or $5,000, right? The
Mm.
Submariner back in the early 2000 was about, four and a half, five, from what I remember, or thereabouts. Um, People are not talking about submariners. People, when they buy, they're talking about, day dates. The price tag has changed, and fundamentally, something has happened to this market, which is not atypical of what's happening in society. People are spending a lot of money. There is a lot of money out there. So this watch will not go to someone like me. It will go to somebody who's very young,
Mhm.
a beginner in the industry. It cannot go to somebody like me because, I should be splurging. I should be buying heavy, expensive pieces. Um, yeah.
The other thing that came to mind, in addition to what Whole Milk said, maybe someone with a design aesthetic who is looking for something a little less predictable than Nomos, but it kind of looks like an Escher work, the Dutch artist who had these sorts of
Hmm.
graphic and woodcut works with the marble kind of design. So if you're a fan of the Dutch artist Escher, even though this is something that's done by an independent artist called Bastien Chevalier, it's it can be, maybe you're a fan of that particular aesthetic, and it's not like you would find this sort of professionally executed version of it on a watch dial anywhere else, and certainly not at this price point. So
Hmm.
that's I think that's the other thing, Professor. Also, now there are so many different options, so many different genres. Of course, people still go for the usual suspects, right? Rolex is still a huge marker of success and achievement. It's still mostly perceived as a luxury good, more than uh, simply a watch. Patek
Hmm.
has finally entered that category in the mainstream as well. I know we are more
True.
emotionally divided about that particular brand, but let's not personalize it immediately. Um, but nowadays, there's also, like you said, at a certain price point, so many more options, so many more watches that allow for a more personalized aesthetic,
Hmm.
something more customized. Sometimes they come in the form of pieces like this, which have an appearance that's very unique. That's a limited edition and limited run kind of production model, anyways. And sometimes you have, we were talking yesterday again. Well, not yesterday. I'm sorry. A couple of days ago about Sartori Billard, which is a France-based brand, but has these three lines of watches. Like a three-hander, which is, as the owner of the brand, Armand, calls it, is native bespoke. So its all watches are made to order with every detail open to customization. Um, they have like a dressier version of this with a hand wound movement, with a small seconds dial, which is again fully customizable down to the case material, for which you have um, at least 3 different options between stainless steel, titanium, and tantalum, and I think precious metals are an option as well. And then you can get hand guilloche dials, you can get stone, semi-precious stone dials, a combination of all, as you can see here, like an Aventurine hour track, meteorite center dial, galvanized in this aubergine kind of color, and guilloche small seconds subdial there. And then you also have more recently, they came up just a few days ago, in fact, they came out with this integrated sports watch design, which again, one can always blame for not being entirely imaginative, but at least not a one-to-one copy of anything that is already out there. And it's also open to customization to a certain extent, if not necessarily as much as their established lines. But yeah, all this goes to say is nowadays people who have, $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, or $10,000 to spend on a watch don't automatically have to go to Rolex or Hoya or any other predictable brand. They can go for something like Furlan Mari, they can go for Baltic, they can go for Sartor Billard, they can go for Louis Erard, they can go for just about anything that offers something completely different than the established models that Rolex just cosmetically rearranges every year and puts out again and again ad nauseum. Nice. Memovox, welcome back. Alexander Shorokov has been doing this genre.
Yeah, you're right. You bring up a good point.
And MCM, good
MCM.
morning. Evening.
Is that this is not a German Shepherd, it's a Malinois, right?
It does look like a Malinois. Yeah, the ears and kind of the coat makes me think it's a Malinois, but MCM can clarify. MCM has a nice collection of A. Lange und Söhne, which he recently topped off with a stainless steel Odysseus, actually. I mean, relatively.
He needs to tell us more about it.
Yeah, he was trying to connect the other day, but somehow, technical difficulties kept him. But it's a nice. He has a very nice collection.
I think he's also very lucky because these guys have done another crazy price increase, Lord. You've seen it, 15 to 20%.
I don't even follow. Okay, MCM says he's a Sable German Shepherd. His dad is a Sacramento Sheriff K9. Wow, nice pedigree.
Oh, okay. That's nice. I love dogs. Unfortunately, my wife doesn't. So we don't have any. And the kids love dogs. Well, boy loves them, girl weird. But yeah, I would love to have one, but unfortunately, yeah, we need to get rid of the wife and get a dog instead.
MCM was mentioning the new Biva watches just came out. The one that combines a minute repeater and the tourbillon, and apparently they are $500,000 a piece. But hey, I guess it's mostly interesting as marking the swan song of Jean-Claude Biva rather than anything else, right?
I like the interview, Lord. Maybe you can share it with everyone if you haven't.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a very extended content, and it's well done as always.
Yeah.
Waco and Eleanor Picciotto have gone and sat down with both Jean-Claude and Pierre and interviewed them about the emergence of their independent watch brand. And I think, look, to me, it's an exciting project because in many ways, Jean-Claude Biver, even if the only thing he did was to revive Blancpain with Jacques Piguet, he would have been a legend and a very important pillar in reviving the mechanical watches. But he has done it many times over after that. Um, he has done something just as important in Omega. He has done something just as important, even though again the brand probably gives rise to mixed feelings. He has done something similar with Hublot. Um, you know, the entire work he has done with LVMH, even watch brands as well. In propelling Zenith to a new era as well. I mean, he has had a hand with just about a third of everything that happened with
Yes, yes, yes.
with mechanical watches since early 80s, right, Professor?
No, he's a unique person. Absolutely, completely agree. He's evolutionary. Um, it's unique to find somebody like him, passionate, proper demeanor. Um, and remember, the whatever he did at Zenith, he was then able to create a platform for Dufour to come in, and now he's at the helm of Rolex. So he's a unique character. I do not see anyone like him. I mean, you look at um, the two idiots, but I'm not going to say who they are because you know who they are. One of them. You look at these two idiots, um, and it's just the industry has a lot of conformity at the helm. At the very top. You look at AP and you wonder, right? We talked about it. You wonder if the CEO wants to destroy the company or what exactly he wants to do with that company.
Look, I mean, it's really a complicated question, and you actually know much more about the financial perspective than I do. And again, you still know more about the horological perspective than I do as well. But for me, the question with Audemars Piguet is obviously very complicated because on the one hand, you have one of the most important brands of the watchmaking tradition in the
Yes,
Valley
yes,
period.
yes,
So you would ideally want a kind of leadership at at the head of a brand like that that takes care of that tradition as much as realizing it is a business. So obviously they are in the business of selling watches, moving units. So the financial perspective is very important, but there's also the perspective of tradition, which I'm not sure if Audemars Piguet is really living up to in 2023. They are certainly selling more watches than ever. They're selling more expensive watches than ever. Um, but I'm not sure what is going on in Le Brassus. I know they have a very nice museum workshop that integrates in an ideal perspective, both of these aspects of the brand we were talking about, the workshop works on complications and innovations, whereas the museum at the center of that workshop displays what they have already achieved, from the most complicated watches all the way into design marvels such as the Royal Oak. But it's how healthy is it to surrender these brands like Audemars Piguet, like Patek Philippe, to the hype, and what will happen half a century down the line to centuries of the past that has preceded it. I don't even know. I don't even know. So it's like kind of at least a two-sided question, and both require different kinds of answers. I think if I were the CEO of Audemars Piguet, I would run the brand to the ground probably in less than 2 years, for sure, right? So because I'm completely illiterate when it comes to the financial and economic and business side of of the whole thing.
No,
Whereas,
don't say that. No, don't say that, because what they have, I mean, many of them are doing what they're doing successfully because of not what the company has done. The company is riding the wave, and they're all made some important distinctions. We said this before. Rolex, and I really liked what you said at the prelude of our discussion. Basically produces the face that changes with the cyclops and the bezel, right?
Yeah.
That's about it. Whether they call it Yachtmaster or they call it, Speedmaster or Roadmaster or Trainmaster, it doesn't matter, right? And they're for Rolex, the whole thing is a marketing machine. AP, caught up to this, and everybody else has, by producing the same iteration in different colors, and they add precious metal, they add the gems, they turn it blue, they turn it yellow, then they put a bit of attitude at the authorized dealers. They limit production, and they make you feel, worthless when you visit them. This kind of fake snobbery that goes on, which, it's selling. It's selling well. And the same for Patek. Patek. I don't want to go into this distinction, which is a better brand and all that. They are who they are, of course. But I think they all are riding this huge wave as a result of this magnificent, stupid, crazy liquidity and hype that has been created. And they're just producing. Now, of course, they are unique brands and everybody innovates, of course, because they're making a lot of money. AP's AP's revenue with 45,000 pieces is 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 billion Swiss francs, which is fantastic for a company with such few people in it. Of course, Rolex is 8 times that. That's different. But I think everybody is just on that wavelength, and they are benefiting. Patek, and so forth, Vacheron, and then going down from that. So, are they doing something unique? Well, I mean, has he done anything unique? I think they made the bet, and the bet clearly is not particularly to Audemars. I don't think you would have brought a company to its knees. I think you would have done innovations on the one hand, outside of this AP Royal Oak offshore look, which they try, but it's not significant. But they still sell, even if it's ugly or too expensive or it doesn't mean anything. I think you would have done quite well. But where one gets distinguished is in difficult situations, like, okay, what do you do with a brand like Ulysse Nardin, which seems to be stuck? What do you do with a brand like Girard Perregaux, Frank Muller? I mean, these
I
are
think
iconic. Yeah. Sorry.
I think Ulysse Nardin's new path seems to be, as much as I can discern from their marketing material in the run up to Watches and Wonders, which is basically tomorrow. Let's see, is going to be, at least for the time being, purely on the freak. As you can see, every single new post since since mid-March has been about the freak, and they are basically going to, at least in the short run, lean on their strengths, lean on what is a very unique design for them, and it is, in a way, it's a product of bygone time, right? You know, because
Yeah. Yeah.
it comes from this pre-great recession era of Swiss horology, where everyone was so invested in creating complicated watches, finding different ways of expressing time, and Freak was, in a way, on the vanguard of this kind of watchmaking, and Ulysse Nardin, accordingly, was also one of the brands that, again, they hedged their bets. They rather put all their chips on something very unique and innovative, and ultimately were one of the losers when the recession hit, because everyone went back to less ostentatious, less imaginative, and more traditional designs and expressions. But let's see if they can dig themselves out of that hole in this new chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and I agree with the comment that neither Beaver nor Richard Mille are watchmakers. Well, I mean, they know enough about watches to know that the engineering has to be done this way or that way. And I think that's what a CEO needs to do, because never a CEO needs to be necessarily an engineer. The CEO is the strategy, the guy who sets the business plan, the strategy, understands the big picture, and then gets the people in. Because a lot of these watchmakers, by the way, the top watchmakers in many of these brands are not even Swiss. That's another myth of the Swiss industry. The top watchmaker at Rolex is not Swiss. So
Well,
he has.
what I really
But there
like
are
is,
others. Yeah.
what I really like is, usually when an independent watchmaker emerges, people always talk about, like, how they worked in this brand or that brand, and
Yeah.
Rolex almost never gets mentioned, because I guess they're signing very nice NDAs
I never leave.
with Rolex.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Lord, because it's interesting for a company that has so many thousands of people working. They manage to keep the secrets of the company for announcements such as Watches and Wonders pretty tight, and pretty confidential. Amazing, right? I mean, you would think that somebody will be taking pictures, somebody will be releasing something, but they're not releasing anything.
And the funny thing is, of course, there are always so-called leaks, with weeks to go, and they always end up
Oh.
being unfounded. Swinging Kangaroo, thank you, $199. Watches and Wonders. More of. I wonder if there's any in stock. It's a good one. Um, but yeah, maybe we should stay up or something. Probably a lot of the releases will be stacked up in the morning. People have been waiting for of course, the usual suspects, Rolex, Patek Philippe, as Swinging Kangaroo was mentioning earlier. One of the biggest expectations for this year's Watches and Wonders is a new IWC Ingenieur, apparently. um I wonder what that's going to be like, if it's going to be closer in design and proportions to the original Gérard Janta piece from the 70s, or if it's going to be something radically different in terms of case material, in terms of the size. It remains to be seen, but there are a lot of interesting uh, releases, I think, that I expect from Tudor. You were wearing your cap. I know some people are tired because Tudor ends up releasing too many watches, perhaps for their own good. But they're building an entire line, which is what Ozzy was mentioning last time, right? Now they have their mainstay in Black Bay 58, and they have the Black Bay 58 in all these different case materials, and even the Heritage line, which is bigger cases. They have their serious dive watch range in the Pelagos. They have their own GMT slash travel time watch. They have their own chronographs. Um, so it's interesting to me what new step they will take. I look forward to Tudor, I think, more than any other brand, actually, if I may put it like that. I'm kind of also um, always looking forward to some of the Richemont brands, especially Lange and Cartier, maybe, because Cartier always pulls some trick from their hat, since they have such a nice archive of very original designs. There's always something interesting to present from that. Are you expecting any interesting releases from some of these brands or others?
Yeah, yes. The excitement for me is less exciting because I will see it. I will see it, look at it, and say, okay, a lot of people will salivate over this, and then what? And then they'll get into this kind of thinking that, all right, I cannot get access to this piece. Let me go and get last year's model, or the one before that, or whatever they give me. And then they get into this um, impulsive buying because they know, again, this year they will not be able to get access to, and so forth. Yeah, also, I think the price points are changing fundamentally, and these watches are becoming excessively expensive, and it's not anymore an affordable proposition for a lot of people. Of course, there are affordable watches, but many of these brands are no longer as affordable as before. Now they use inflation. Oh, let's do a 15% increase. By the way, I keep on highlighting that gold hasn't moved. Gold hasn't reached any new, high, despite all the crises we've seen recently. And platinum is not going anywhere. It's below gold. It used to be above gold 20 years ago. Now it's, half the price of gold. So, I mean, are we so into paying for labor costs to design these watches from platinum?
I
You know,
think
so
I think the logic has completely changed when it comes to case materials and the whole idea of precious metal, and of course everyone goes back and refers to the whole idea of the Royal Oak as a stainless steel watch that's more expensive than gold watches. And as a remind me of the Greek word for the novel.
Nova.
Yeah, no, novel as in the genre, literary genre.
What do you mean?
Something that combines myth and history, I think, as a word. No,
Oh.
isn't it like mythistorema or something like that?
Mythistorema, yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Mythistorema.
my Greek pronunciation is
Excellent.
so terrible. I wanted to.
No, that's
So,
good. Excellent.
as a mythistorema of horology, that story is great. Audemars Piguet with the Gérard Argenta design introduced this new era where stainless steel was now a high horological material. But so half a century has passed, and nowadays titanium watches, mirror polished or finished in multiple facets by high horological makers, cost many times over stainless steel watches, even the ones that are very popular. Certainly cost more than precious metal watches. Tantalum is living a new age after it has been revived very successfully by F.P. Jean and the famous chronomètre bleu, even though it was a material that was very extensively used by Audemars Piguet in the 90s, especially. Um, Certainly, a lot of brands more and more lean on ceramic and uh, blends or mixes that include ceramic in terms of their um, even brand identity. I mean, IWC, for example, they have their so-called ceratanium that is basically a mixture of ceramic and titanium that they basically lean pretty heavily on in terms of their new models. AP probably in terms of the ceramic watches is the most hyped brand. So it's interesting. I mean, it's a different era for watchmaking, certainly, where you have an influence that's not just related to the material value of the material, but more about what kind of engineering brings that material to you in terms of an integrated design, or what kind of finishing presents that material to you in terms of a noble matter.
Ah,
Yeah, for example, I mean, Laurent Ferrier, the entire range basically is titanium with small exceptions. Okay, I'm embarrassing myself. Whatever I click comes out stainless steel. Where are these? I think it's this one that was. Nope. I guess they have changed. Hmm. Hmm. I'm also looking forward to Chopin and Ferdinand Berthoud, although Berthoud really made the announcement for their first movement that's going to be now introduced in a round case, apparently. Let me see if they have anything on their webpage. Right here. Because this was the one that has the fusée and chain and the tourbillon, but that used to be in an octagonal case. So it's now introduced in a round case for the last 38, apparently, calibers they have of the constant force mechanism. I don't know if they will have any other novelties, but that's already interesting enough, I guess. Again, people usually want more traditional designs at this time and smaller watches, and the octagonal one really wears big too, in addition to being just a gigantic case to begin with. So Chopin could be interesting, because I think with the LUC series especially, they offer something that you can pick up on the secondary market, especially at a huge deal. Something that has a lot of times either the Geneva seal or their own Qualité Fleurier, which we were just talking about it, right? How much a Swiss watch actually has to be produced in Switzerland. If it has the Qualité Fleurier, that means it's 100% produced in Switzerland. So that's something very special, I think, beyond the quality of finishing and the kind of rigorous tests and trials they put it through in terms of everyday wearability as well. Hey, JB. Thomas. Have you looked into that at all? Or maybe have you actually gone to the foundation, possibly in Fleurier, Professor?
No.
No? So they basically have 5 categories of tests. One part of it is the fact that the watch is manufactured fully in Switzerland. The other part is the quality of finish inside and out. So that is pretty similar to the hallmark of Geneva. Then there's the chronometric standard. Everything is at least fulfilling the COSC standards, COS chronometer certification. And then they have two more levels of testing for fully encased watches. One is the Chronofiable, which tests the durability of the movement when it's fully encased. And then also they have a machine they call the Fleury test, which actually basically simulates the everyday wearing of a timepiece, so that you know that it can stand, jogging around, slamming your car door, typing furiously on a keyboard, or whatever else you might put your watch through. And of course, this is basically exclusive to very limited numbers of Chopard LUC and Parmigiani Fleurier pieces. And it was basically the brainchild of Carl Friedrich Schäufele and Michel Parmigiani.
Yeah. No, I like the comment from Thomas.
I like the validation metrics, transparency of supply chain. This is also something that a lot of the newer brands are really trying to be transparent about. I mean, Chapek does this really well. We were looking at Sartori Billard with their bespoke watches. They are also completely transparent about how they work as an établisseur, in the sense that they reach out to some of the best makers for every aspect of the watch, and then they assemble everything in-house. And that's been the Swiss tradition for the longest time, right? The so-called vertical integration and everything in-house is a much more recent tendency, and really mostly marketing speak, if you ask me. But I might not know some of the other details. The mineral origins of titanium and tantalum will prove to be interesting moving forward. One thing I do love about tantalum is its appearance. I mean, it's kind of like a gunmetal gray with this bluish tint. So at least as an accent, it's a very cool look. Let me see if I can find this. I have this extensive notepad of deals that I share with my people on Patreon. There we go. This is the UTM chronograph that's executed in two-tone with tantalum and pink gold accents. Yeah, I just love that case material. It's a very unique color, and especially in combination with other materials. Even I know Audemars did some executions of it in two-tone or ton sur ton, really, with stainless steel, right? Which is also, again, looks beautiful in that slight distinction between a silvery gray and gunmetal gray. It's a very cool look. And it's supposed to be very corrosion resistant. So reliable, durable material as well.
Yeah, it's harder than gold for sure, and the other thing is that it's much cheaper.
Eric L says, "Is it National Ball Cap Day?" I don't know. Professor actually has a better hairline than I do, but I'm just having a bad hair day, so it's I can just speak for myself. Mm. The other great thing is, yes, tantalum pieces are heavy. So if you like that sort of heft, it's a nice material to work with. And again, it's almost a metaphysical association. Some might say it might be shallow, but one of the things that people like about precious metal watches, whether it's on a leather strap or on a full bracelet, is that feeling of gravity and weight, right? So tantalum, for that reason, I think has an increasing appeal as a case material for watches because it is heavy. I'm not a big fan of dual time, but those are good deals for mid-sized Royal Oaks. Um, there is a lot of interesting deals at that particular range. I want to say it was 25730 maybe is the reference number. There's some interesting deals, not in tantalum for sure, because tantalum is much rarer, but in two-tone, I think that's a very interesting reference. I found one from mid-90s.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to wear a watch like this. Exactly that, this kind. Yeah, very nice.
I find the dial a little too busy and maybe asymmetric in a wrong way. Again, for my aesthetic sense, for this execution of dual time, I'm not a huge fan of it in the Royal Oak case, but still, these are mid-sized, complicated Royal Oaks probably offer the best bang for the buck at this point in time, especially in two-tone. They can be great watches if you like the complication, if you like the aesthetic. I like the fact that a lot of the earlier pieces have the old font and the petite tapisserie, which is a much finer execution of that unique waffle dial. Yeah, I mean, the prices have gone crazy, but nowadays, any old Royal Oak going for 35K plus, these have become relatively good deals. Obviously, just 5 years ago, they were barely five figures. So it is what it is. We have to contend with how the world keeps turning and moving on. Yeah, there are so many interesting pieces similar to this, and other references, of course. 25594, which is the so-called owl. Again, in two-tone with this silver tapisserie dial. You get the day date, which is beautifully balanced, and then the moon phase indicator at 6 completes that owl look, and you get the old school again, old school font, petite tapisserie in the fine execution, and in two-tone, I think the silver dial fits really nicely with the whole theme. And again, that's the price point. And you have kind of what can I say? An anthropomorphic look almost, right? You know, it is called the owl, but it also has kind of the look of a human face as well. So I like it. This is the 25594 SA, which refers to the two-tone execution. They're a little more expensive in full stainless steel, actually, as Royal Oaks traditionally are. This is a later piece as well, as you can see from the capitalized font and the larger squares. Capitalized initials, I should say, larger initials. Yeah, they did used to be. Listen, I mean, it's the funny thing is, of course, the reason I brought the mid-sized complicated pieces as a relative deal is for the mid-size stainless steel pieces with the blue dial, time only, or time and date rather, like 14790 or even 14800, which is the strap version of it rather than the full bracelet. Those watches are more expensive than the complicated versions, right? Because people people are scared of sending things into AP for service these days because of the potential hurt of the receipt of the bill you might receive from them. So the complicated pieces offer a relative deal in that case, right? You can get this day-date moon phase for less than 23 and a half, and then you can in two-tone. And when it comes to the 14790, you would be lucky to get, you know, the time and date at around the same price in two-tone. And if you go into stainless steel with the blue dial, for example, we're still scrolling. You see, you're almost at 30,000. And this is still the mid-size, so 14790. What we used to call the mini jumbo. And there's, of course, the relatively unique, and this is a niche kind of, but there are a lot of people who like this so-called military dial with the oversized Arabic numerals and the broadsword hands and the unique pointer seconds hand as well. You can find decent deals on those. Although I'm kind of divided about these because it's, Royal Oak without the tapisserie dial for me is kind of missing an essential component, but maybe I'm too much of a purist.
My dear Lord, I have to go
Yes,
to
sir.
sleep.
You do. What time is it? It's too early.
No, 10:23. I have an early
Oh.
flight.
Yeah, this trip took a lot of energy from you, I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they do tomorrow, but I have to, yeah, I have to go.
All right. Always great to have you on board, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much. I think I will go for
Bye-bye.
another bye. Another 40 minutes or so. Guys, please hit the like button if you like the show so far, if you have enjoyed yourself. I think I might just continue going over some of the new releases. Carl F. Bücherer just released the new Manero peripheral in 40 millimeter. With various dial colors, with this slate gray, they have a salmon dial version with the black small seconds for the contrast. Chocolate brown, kind of like celery green. Bücherer has great movements, by the way. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the whole story, but the movement maker that FP Jean, Denis Flageolet, and for a certain amount of time, Vianney Alter collaborated on THA for Technique Horlogère Appliquée was eventually sold to Bücherer, which integrated it into their watchmaking arm, which goes by that full proper name, Carl F. Bücherer. So you get a lot of interesting stuff there. Chronographs are pretty great too. These peripheral rotor self-winding watches, of course, bring something interesting and exciting because essentially you get a self-winding movement, but that sort of full view of the caliber through the exhibition case back, which you can admire and contemplate, at least when you have the watch off of your wrist. That says puke. Thankfully, I've never puked in that color. Again, you know, this is one of those brands I think that deserve a second look. But on the other hand, of course, as much as Bücherer is a trustable, trustworthy, and respected name in the world of jewelers and watch dealers, the brand itself, of course, does not have the same prestige as the usual suspect. So when you get to the price point where you're almost touching 5 figures, like this piece here, at priced at 7,900 in US dollars, it gives you a little bit of thought, but the styling is great. The movements are great in Buchera watches in general. The peripheral rotor is a nice hybrid aesthetically, and certainly is a performance movement here. I think, yeah, it has a power reserve of 55 hours. It is a certified chronometer. So it's a pretty cool piece. It can certainly do the duty of an everyday watch, of a kind of modern or contemporary or slightly youthful dress watch even. 40 millimeters, the thickness is right around 11, so it should be a nice watch to wear on a daily basis. But the price point, of course, considering the standing of the brand, might make you think a little harder. Now that we have looked at Salmon Dial, I want to also take a look at the new MB&F Legacy Machine Perpetual. Of course, in and of itself, it's not a new watch, but with this new edition, it is for the first time presented in stainless steel, with a salmon tinted base plate. It has that fully integrated perpetual calendar movement, of course, famously developed exclusively for Max Büsser and friends, by the friend Stephen McDonnell. I think has really a beautiful aesthetic in the contrast of that stainless steel with the salmon base plate, which is, of course, very nicely finished. Of course, the inverted balance wheel aesthetic of MB&F brings the business side to the very front and to the very center of the watch. But as you can see, there's still a very appealing case back as well. Still beautifully finished. And one that gives you a glimpse into the escapement too. .44 millimeters, still the same case, offered for the first time in stainless steel. Legacy Machine Perpetual, developed by Stephen McDonnell for MB&F. The price point is pretty salty, of course, as things are at this segment, for 177 100,000 Swiss francs. Speaking of some of the innovators in this particular space and price point, of course, Uhrwerk comes to mind, and they have basically released one of their early models or reiterated one of their early models in the form of Uhr 102 Reloaded. Of course, Uhrwerk has a very suggestive name, spelled with an H, with an extra H between U and R. The word in German refers to the watch caliber itself, but Uhrwerk, of course, with the power of that prefix, refers to a kind of originary work, the kind of work that precedes everything, a work that precedes, a work that takes precedence. And also, of course, it has this sense of an emphasis too. So it's a very strong statement, and always has that ring of the German word for a watch, for a clock in your ears too. And this is UR 102 Reloaded, or Uhr 102 Reloaded. Of course, this was one of the beginnings, one of those Uhr watches for the brand, designed by Felix Baumgartner and Martin Frey, with their expression of the wandering hours complication, which is becoming popular again after it was introduced and implemented really in a serious manner by Audemars Piguet's Star Wheel complication. Of course, it was adopted by brands such as Uhrwerk and Moser. And these pieces are apparently made in 41 millimeters rather than the original 38. And I think for this particular genre, it's predictable. I mean, I think these kinds of watches appeal to people who want to show it off at any rate. They're not in any shape or form discreet or under the radar. So it's not surprising to me that they have bloated up the case size in the new generation. I think it was launched in 1997 originally. So the reloaded version, it's going to be a box set of two, one in titanium, the other in the Uhrwerk black, in 41 millimeter case size, with larger lugs in this angular fashion attached to the case. the crown at roughly 4 o'clock. Imaginatively speaking, of course, the expression of the time is rather different on this watch, which has the wandering hours complication through that fan like or downward facing crescent, let's say, in the upper half of the face of the watch. It has a little more of an angle rather than being a perfect semicircle, which is, I think, how the original UR 102 was. Jake Brooks, thank you. Excellence, 9.99. Excellence is a perpetual challenge. Do you think a perpetual calendar is hinted here? I don't think so, JB. Hey, Davi, how are you doing? I don't think so. It's not out of the question completely, but Rolex uses perpetual in its own way. As you know, every single Rolex watch, except for the Cellini, is basically called an Oyster Perpetual, i.e. Oyster Perpetual, GMT Master 2, Oyster Perpetual, Submariner Date, so on and so forth. In which case, Oyster refers to the waterproof case, whereas the Perpetual refers to the self-winding caliber. So when Rolex uses the word perpetual, which is something that they drop very frequently in their marketing campaigns, they refer to the automatic movement and not necessarily the perp cal complication. Look, I would not put it out of the question, but consider it like this. The Daytona, which was introduced in 1963, roughly, right, was the newest model line for Rolex before the Yachtmaster was introduced in 1992, which was basically the first new product family for Rolex in 3 decades. And when the Sky Dweller was introduced, that was, I think, already 10 years ago, or 11 maybe. I think it was 2012, right? And the Sky Dweller is, of course, Rolex's expression of the annual calendar, right? That was once again 3 decades later. Now, I'm not saying that Rolex necessarily has to wait until the 2040s or something to release a new product family and a new complication, but suffice to say that they don't necessarily make new complications on every 3 years, every 5 years, or even every decade. It takes them a while to come out with a genuinely new product family. So I wouldn't expect a perpetual calendar from Rolex at this point in time. Although if it happens, I won't be embarrassed either, because again, they keep everything so tightly sealed, so tightly under wraps, that no one will know, and suddenly they would come up with something that's completely out of the blue. I mean, look, it need not be so innovative, right? Think of the last year's so-called Destro GMT, right? The GMT Master 2 with the flipped case and a new color combination. on the 24-hour bezel. It was a huge hit just because it was ever so slightly different from what came before, and no one was really expecting it. And even though collectors almost immediately named it Destro as after certain mil-spec and military issued divers that Rolex produced in the past, which had the crown on at the 9 o'clock rather than 3 o'clock. Historically, of course, there was also a 6542 from that first generation of GMT Masters with the bakelite bezel that had the crown at 6 o'clock, but still had the date at 3. It was completely unexpected. No one said anything until they released that teaser video, which some people have very closely examined and saw a detail about, oh, is this a left-hander watch? I remember that discussion, and it was only then we knew. So I'm not entirely sure that they have something so unpredictable up their sleeve. Going back to the Uhrwerk 102 Reloaded, which is released as a box set of 2 in this new, or in this reinterpretation of their original Wandering Hours watch. The piece is 41 millimeter in diameter, as we mentioned before. The thickness is right above 11 millimeter. 3 atmos of depth rating, 48 hours of power reserve. Here's the titanium version, and here's the Uhrwerk Black. Both come with a hybrid textured sailcloth styled strap. And I think the price point is 56,000 Swiss francs for the box set, which might already be sold out, by the way. I think it's like 25 sets of 2 or something. Yeah, Swinging, you mentioned also that you actually have the watch, so I'm glad they satisfied you. I'm glad you got your own, since you wear your watches actually on the right hand. I know one of our audience members, Racing R, wears his watches on the right hand too, even though he's not a lefty himself. That's his preference. So, look, I was also glad that they offered something different, but of course it wasn't something earth shattering or groundbreaking. What can I say? I mean, it's meant to be worn on the right hand, because if you wear something long sleeve and you're wearing it on the left, it's you can't actually take a look at the date at a quick glance, right? You have to roll up your entire sleeve. So I like the fact that you are you're wearing it as it's meant to be, in a way. Although I should reiterate this is something I talked about in relation to last year's Watches and Wonders and the kind of documents that emerged from it. There was nothing, not in the marketing material that Rolex released to the general public, not in the training manuals that I shared with the audience last year. There was no reference whatsoever to the idea that the watch was supposed to be made for right-hand wearers or lefties or anything like that. All they said was the iconic bezel insert in a new bicolor combination that was for them a more important aspect to market the watch, to sell the watch, than anything else. Hey, Swingit,
Hello. Hi, evening.
how you been,
Yes,
man?
been doing good. Just what can I say? Today is nice, sunny, about 55 Fahrenheit. So not so bad, but it started to rain though. So yeah.
We have a nice day here in Los Angeles. Finally, I think
Oh, nice.
we'll get a few more days of rain, probably
Mhm.
next week, and hopefully
Yep.
we will be officially in the spring soon enough after that. But yeah, so you have the so-called Sprite
Yes, the
or
left hand.
yeah.
Yep. Same exact configuration as this, and but they asked me which one I want. I was like, okay, the Jubilee, and he said, all right, but on the week that they have stocks comes in, it came too, and they are on Oyster. I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think they both look good to
I
me.
mean, they both look great. I mean, and I have seen them both side by side on the same on each configuration. I just never had the Jubilee bracelet. That's why, you know.
Yeah.
Yep, because the on the OP is a oyster brush. On the Daytona is on the oyster, but it has polished center link.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why I was like, oh, if I opt it for the Jubilee, then I can have the brush center link, and polished center link and the Jubilee. You know,
Yeah.
it's different flavor.
It
Yep.
certainly is. And I also, a lot of people, of course, harken back to the original GMT Master 6542, which was on the Oyster. But, for the vintage era, soon enough, when that was replaced with 1675, there were many people who bought it on the Jubilee, and the famous GMT Master that is worn in the movie Marathon Man, for example, that's on Jubilee. So
Yes, and is and
Dustin Hoffman's piece.
not many I see on the wild that people had the spot models on Jubilee. It's like everybody had the same bracelet. Just one, but it's not. But I do. But I love the watch. I wear them a lot, and even though it get every time you touch the watch, you get fingerprints all over the place. Yeah, and so take a few micro scratch here and there is there, but it's not nothing really. But the loom, the loom on this one, I mean on the GMT, for
Mhm.
some reason is brighter than the Submariner.
Interesting.
But I don't know, it's not as bright as the Explorer 2. The Explorer 2, that thing is like in your face. It's the Explorer 2 can go head to head with those crazy Seiko loom. You know what I mean, right? Like you charge it and then you go see a movie and then you come out, it's still glowing. Yeah, those kind of things. And
Seiko
it
Seiko
just
is impressive. Seiko is impressive at the moment. You know that they expire pretty quickly afterwards. You know, so
yep.
it's like, you know, the when you immediately walk into the dark, like let's say into the movie theater for the first few minutes, a lot of the cheapest Seikos I have are a marvel, but deep into the
15,
movie, you
15
can
minutes
barely,
goes by, it's like
yeah,
nothing.
you can
Yep.
barely see anything. So, um,
And when I asked for the watch, I asked for the Pepsi as well.
mhm. Did you get that
And
one?
no, I told my guy that yeah, because I ask one watch at a time. I don't just ask three and then give me whatever. No, no. I just go like be specific, one watch, and I just and but this one I want the GMT stainless steel,
Mhm.
not the Batman. I just want either the Pepsi or the green and black, the left hand.
Nice.
But the Pepsi is not coming in a lot, so it's not. If it comes in, is they have to fulfill some other client. So, but they have this though. They have the white gold and the
Mm.
rose gold, full gold. Been sitting there for like 3 weeks now.
It's
You
weird.
know,
We are back to
no,
normal. Almost.
it's like we are almost there. Like if you don't mind a little bit of like and and really, I mean, in the past a couple weeks or so, I mean, many listeners, the new listener, come and ask people who in this space, oh, how do I approach AD? How do I do this, and that? Should I buy XYZ to get something? You know, and they just don't just go after what you want, and just that's it. I mean, and most of the time you hear Submariner dead, right? That is their go-to, um, and
Look,
nothing else.
I'll
But
put
I
it like
like
this.
yeah,
Sometimes some of the watches are very desirable. Like Explorer 2 is actually very popular in terms of the numbers produced and the demand, especially on the white dial version. That's actually not the easiest watch to
yes,
get.
yep,
But if you want, for example, any two-tone watch, if you like it, the GMT Master 2, the 36 Explorer 36 in two-tone, the Sea Dweller in two-tone, the Daytona in two-tone, those are relatively easy to get. If you can wait for a few months,
yes,
and
they will come.
yeah, if you go in
Mm-hmm.
as a serious customer, you
Right.
can certainly get these watches from the AD.
Yes,
The
exactly.
ST the ST43, Explorer 36, these in stainless steel as well. I think you can still get them. Not maybe as easily, but with a patient wait of 3-4 months easily. Um, and sometimes you're lucky enough that you walk in and you can walk out with a relatively desirable piece as well. I mean, it's
yes, yes. You're right. And if you are in let's say small metropolitan area, small city,
Mhm.
and your authorized dealer is a family owned local in state based or in town in the city, you have better shot than go with a big franchise store.
Mm.
And most likely they will carry jewelry as well, like
Yeah.
diamonds, rings and stuff. And I told when my friends come to ask me personally, I mean about like their research on their own, they come and ask me, hey, should I buy what do you think about this brand, this brand? I was like, yeah, they are good brands, but do you really like it though? And not as much, but I heard you have to buy this for me to get a Rolex. I was like, okay, look, you married, so when was the last time you give your wife something? Yeah, it means no. So it's a good time for you to get something, right? Anniversary or birthday, pick one and plan for it. You know, birthday is you know exactly what day it is, so you plan for it. And before that happening, give it like 6 months. You go in with your wife um, to the authorized dealer, and then ask, asking for the ring first. Talk, and then see interest, but do not buy anything. Okay, pick what she likes and tell whoever help you. Ask for the manager and ask the manager who is the best Rolex people that you want me to talk to. Shake hand with the manager, let them know, send you talk to the person and tell them that it would be nice for our birthday or anniversaries. She can have the ring and I can have a Submariner. How does that sound? And give them about 6 months. And by God, you will get it. And do not buy it. Tell them exactly you will pick up the anniversary or the ring on the same day.
Mm.
They can make it
That's
happen.
that's a very, very good advice.
You know,
That's very good
or
advice.
moms, dad. I mean, pick one in the family and buy something for your family. It's always better than just buy something that you don't even care about.
And I'm glad I have this diverse audience and that you jumped on as well, because as a single man who only spends on himself, I wouldn't know anything about these tactics. So I
Oh,
need your help.
yes. I mean, and for moms, dad, uncles, brothers, sisters. I mean, we
I'm also an only child, and I only have
oh,
my mom, and I do get stuff for her, but
yes,
not
and
necessarily from yeah.
yes,
See,
I
that's
understand. Is
that's
that
it's a
no
different.
even my the way of the handling this thing is it just in general and many who interest into this they sometimes people maybe the first time they don't know how to approach them. It just that just be nice, talk. Don't just shoot 5 darts. No. If you want a Submariner, just aim for it. Okay. If you like, oh, what about just tell them two model? Okay, Submariner and Submariner there. That's it. If you like the Submariner line, if you like other line, then you just ask for one and go from there. But and this is and I there's another side of my friends too. They're not a watch enthusiast,
Mhm.
but they know Rolex. They like watches, but they don't want to spend money on watches. And just for example, like a friend of mine, he's in financial firm industry, and he just got promoted to the big position of his company, and he wants to get something for himself. And I go through with him the Rolex catalog. I told him, hey, do you like this brand? He's like, look, no, I just want this. Okay. I was like, okay, which one? And then I flip up with the spot model, right? Start from the Explorer. He's like, no, this looks like Seiko. No. What about Oyster Perpetual? No, I don't want this one. I was like, why not? Because you already have one. I don't want it. Okay, next. Submariner. Nope. Everyone in the office, my office has one. No. We skip all of it. And then what he stopped me was that they just on Jubilee fluted two-tone yellow gold white dial with sticks.
Classic. That's great.
Yeah, that is the definition of 98.5% of the people in this world know Rolex, right? Because we are in such a small group of people who knows every bit of detail, right? Who
That's
can
true.
see what kind of watch, what kind of reference from like 10 meters away. They don't. And and that's what he wants. And he wants just one. And I was like, okay, just let me know when you're ready to go, and then I'll go with you. Because it has to be put in as the allocation order, of that exact configuration.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, that's on the other side of the coin, as well as more than enthusiast watch people. And yeah, it's, another friend of mine got a Submariner and this and that as well. So, and
And that
he,
that probably helps your standing with that authorized dealer as well. You know, if you bring your friends in and your associates in, your family in
yeah,
to
I
the
mean,
same
I,
place.
yep, I bring them in, and then he asked me that, hey, if I start this and then I have a history with them, should I bring my or buy some watch for people or buy something for people to build history? I was like, um, in the beginning, if you put everything on your account, it look good, but after you get to a certain point, you get moved to another basket of clients.
Mm.
I call it the dark basket, because that basket you don't want to be in,
Of course.
because you will be in the pool of other VIP, which more likely more important than you. Is the spending history is the, and again, some authorized dealer has different policy. Just don't take it as everybody do the same. It's just from my experience. And if say if you allocate like hot pieces, but
Mhm.
it's for somebody else. If one day you want that watch for whatever reason, it will be a hard time for you to get it, because they will look at you like you already have one. Why you need another one? You know, it's just I just introduced them to certain people at the
Well, no,
authorized dealer.
that's what I
Like
meant
a help.
anyways. That's what
Yep,
I meant
yep.
anyways. Don't put everything in
Because
your account, of
right,
course.
because
But
I
even
know
even
people. Yeah,
even you introducing someone else puts you in
that
good stead
that's a lot. That's
with
help
the
them.
same
Yeah, and like
watch
for
beginner. All right, there's a $5 £5 sterling, a dress watch to pair with my sub 124060, budget of up to 6K, trimming down my collection, focusing on quality, have sold most of my budget pieces.
ooh,
That's a great question. Do you have any preference? You don't have to super chat again, just another message in the chat. Do you have any preference in terms of brands, or do you want to go for at least another brand rather than going for another Rolex? Let me know, and I think we can make an interesting
mm,
choice for you, and that could be a good way to close the early show. I will be back
yeah,
later in the evening, but let's tackle this
yes.
together if you want. SK,
What
do you have any advice?
um for up to 6,000, right?
Mhm.
Euros, right?
Yeah.
Six
No,
thousand euros,
sterling, pound sterling. So that comes up
6,000 pounds, eight
that
US,
comes up to 7.5 in US
seven and a
dollars,
half.
basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about brand new or used,
Mhm.
that's first question, right? Yep.
Of course.
So we'll go both ways. So you already have a Submariner, right? Yep, the brand new noted. So yeah, is the choice. If you like rectangular watch, of course, I use reversal, the new one. The I like the red dial, the burgundy dial.
Hmm.
That's all you have with what's it called? Can you stretch to a Cartier Tang Louis, or is too much stretch for that price? Use
On the secondary market, I'm sure you can. Um,
even a Tang Louis.
I think you should be able to. Let me see.
Oh,
First, let's show the reversal, because that's where I went as well in the used market. You can actually, if you are going used, you can get the one I'm wearing now in stainless steel as well. I got it for even cheaper, but you can certainly scratch one for 6.5, which is the Grand Reverso date. And I really, love this watch. You have the wonderful 8-day movement, which is itself an architectural marvel. But I also agree with both SK and everyone in the chat. If you would like one of the newer tribute to 1935, I know they're a little more expensive at retail, but let me search it like that. On the secondary market, I think you can get them, around 7.5, 8 in the different dial colors. The green one is beautiful. The blue one, which kind of turns into a blur purple almost in certain angles, is very appealing too. The burgundy one is excellent, and you don't really find many of those. And honestly, I mean, as much as I love my watch, for a first reverso, the time only has a certain appeal. It also has that stainless steel case back. If you ever want to customize your watch, that's a beautiful blank canvas. I don't know why none of these people demonstrated that, but let me see.
Yep.
Right.
And I think Thomas said in the chat with the Santos too. And fun fact, you can get a Santos on, if you like a little bit of gold, you can get a Santos two-tone on the secondary market within that price. Even it's like almost new.
So let's look at Tank Louis as well.
Tank Louis.
On the secondary market. Yeah, if you jump into the vintage market, you can find a lot of interesting pieces. But let's come up also with some retail pieces. But before that, Racing R, my friends, 110 reales, all good over here. Got the 226570. That's the Explorer with the black dial. And I appreciate you. I hope I'll see more of you both in person and here in Southern California when you get back here. So at that price point, it's an interesting dilemma for me at retail. Let me see what we can get.
I have an idea at retail for that price, but I would get bombarded with
No, please go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me.
Grand Seiko.
No, why would you get bombarded? I disagree. I think that's a great choice.
I mean, if you like Spring Drive, the Snowflake is there, and you get money with a lot of change, or the White Birch. I don't know the White Birch is within the price, but
yeah, there's a lot in the Grand Seiko range, especially. That's what I will say in terms of like a contemporary, more modern dress watch aesthetic. It's a great piece. It's a little oversized for my taste for a dress watch, but certainly Grand Seiko has a lot to offer, whether we are looking at Spring Drive or or mechanical pieces, that's a good price point for Grand Seiko.
I mean that. Yeah, it's so many dress piece. Or
That's what Swinging Kangaroo was talking about, the SPGA 211, usually called the Snowflake. Of course, has that hybrid movement spring drive with the highly unique pattern for the dial design. I would very much, again, for me, my vote is Reverso on the secondary markets. They come in different shapes and sizes, but the new Tribute to 1931 is a great series, and you can probably get one on the secondary markets at
Mhm.
that price point.
Yes.
If you want the Grand Date, Reverso Grand Date, which is what I wear, that you can find in stainless steel in that price range as well. Let me see.
And Reverso has GMT function, right, in the Grand Date.
No, Grand Date is not a GMT. Grand Date is just the big dates, 8-day power reserve. That's a different model. The Grand GMT is a different one.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was thinking like, okay, what if you had the GMT function on the Reverso, and then you change the strap from the leather to have like a it's not tactile. Maybe,
Yeah,
you know, the
that's what I
carbon
have.
fiber like.
That's what I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
on that one.
That's more like a weather condition kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can have that watch when you go travel, right? Because the GMT, and it can be dressy, and it can be a business casual.
Sure, certainly.
Yeah, and it's and then you have a Submariner already. I mean, that's it. That
The other one that I want to introduce is a lot of the Breguet classique models on the secondary market can get pretty close. I'm not sure if you can get them for that. Let me see.
the one that is open work.
No, open work would be a little more expensive, but
Oh,
let's see if I think there are some. Case size. I just want to make sure that they're not too small, because coming from the Submariner, even ideally a dress watch would be smaller. Yeah, you can. Again, with the warning that this is 36 millimeter, classic 5930, 3-hander, hand guilloche dial, date at 6 o'clock, blue Breguet hands against that silvered gold blank dial. I think these are beautiful pieces. Again, a very different style than your Submariner, of course. It's a smaller watch. It's much more traditional. I think offers a great contrast. This is a reference 5930, 3-hander with date, and it's right around that price point. But again, with the proviso that this is a 36 millimeter piece.
yep. I mean, there's so many choices for that price, you know, for
Um,
to get the best, so many deals. That's what I would say.
on the secondary market, again, I think you should be able to find some Chopard LUC pieces, but I also agree with my friend Basil in the chat. I was just going to say the Parmigiani Fleuriet Honda. You can find the Honda 1950 for around that price. Let me see where we have. Right here. This is actually unworn even. But since it's a discontinued model, sometimes you can find on Chrono 24 and elsewhere pieces in this sort of box and papers that are not even produced, and you get that beautiful micro rotor movement finished really to the standards of high horology, really well above the price point where you encounter them today. Look, it's listed here at $7,000 with the seller still open to negotiation. Again, beautiful movement, micro rotor, 40 millimeters, relatively sleek. I know Basil can certainly endorse this because he has one in his collection. It's a beautiful piece. And look, if you go into the world of vintage, there are a lot of pieces that are a little smaller, ultra thin. By Vacheron Constantin, especially, you can get a lot of different stuff from 700. If you want, you can email me, and I will send you more links as well. I just put my email address in there, Watch Beginner. So feel free to reach out to me, and I'll provide you more options as well. I want to see if we can find something more at retail. For whatever reason, I'm really blanking out here, because that's an interesting price point, actually, now that you think about it. You know, there's a lot at 5 or 10.
From 5 to 10, you know, it's so many. You can go different ways. It can branch out to different things. Even you can split. No, I don't think you can do the Aquaterra, the world cup. That's beyond 10, right?
You know, one thing I would recommend, again, this is a very different genre, and again, going from the modern Submariner, it can be a little out of the blue, but as a vintage watch head, I will have to just put it out there. This is a very unique model, so it's a little expensive compared to others. It's right at your price point, but you can find the beautiful Jaeger-LeCoultre Memovox, which comes, of course, with the unique alarm complication that you can adjust with that extra crown, and that you can set right here at the center of the dial. They're great pieces of design, quite wearable still, and they come with all manner of different dial combinations, sometimes often with the silvered dial, kind of the off-white color, sometimes with the tuxedo dial, sometimes with these blue centers or or blue accents otherwise. These are great vintage pieces with a lot of soul and a lot of different different feel of a watch. I did a whole segment with Charlie Dunn from Strictly Vintage Watches and Wind Vintage, where we talked about the Memovox as a genre of watches. So I'm gonna drop the link to that conversation for you as well if you're interested. That was a great segment. So that would be my vintage recommendation. But of course, I still have a huge crush on the Reverso as well. JB has a good piece for the everyday. I mean, the Aquaterra on the rubber band could be an interesting everyday, but not. I feel like, you know, it's not too far away from, even on the bracelet, it's not too far away from the Submariner as a genre. So even though it's a solid choice, a great option, I feel maybe it's too close to what he already has. All right, I think I will leave it at that. I'll be back probably in about 5 hours. And once again, this was a great show. Thank you for Professor for jumping on. Thank you also, SK, for coming back on
Yes.
the panel. It's great to have you.
And they start announcing on which time zone is that. So right now is nighttime over there, correct?
Central European. So they will probably start announcing stuff around 7:38 in Central European time AM. So not too far away. Not too far away now.
Oh, I see. Because over there is about 8 hours ahead of us, Eastern time.
Let's see what
Yeah.
what time is it in Geneva
CE.
now? It's 9 hours ahead of me. So probably 7 ahead of you, and it's 11:25. So they will start announcing stuff in 8.5
Like
hours, basically.
1 a.m., 2 a.m., then you start your notification on your phone will be like blowing up. I'm sure it will. Like bing, 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 you know.
So this is another great one, by the way. If you're interested in styling, speaking of Omega watches, the Sector dial has a great vintage feel. The oversized blued hands and the small seconds at 6 o'clock. I think this is a great piece, the CK859. I don't know if it's still available. It was quite popular when it came out. So you might still have to resort to the secondary market for it, but it should be at your price points. There you go. You can
There you go.
Yeah, beautiful options. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
And thank you, everyone. Please don't hesitate to hit the like button while you are at it. I look forward to seeing you in a few hours. I will try to stay up as much as possible to integrate the new releases into the late night show, and I'm really excited. Let's get it. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.